Welcome back to E3 2019, day one here at the Facebook gaming stage. I'm Andrea Renee, joined by the team from Marvel's Avengers. We've got Sean Askai from Crystal Dynamics, the creative director over there, and Bill Roseman, the VP and creative director at Marvel Games. Thanks so much for coming by, guys.
Thanks for having us.
I feel like I just saw you.
And we wouldn't have it any other way.
I know. I'm so glad that you guys are here because there were so many questions that we didn't get to on the E3 Coliseum panel. So, of course, if you guys missed the Coliseum panel, you can check it out, and please do watch it. We've got some cool stuff to talk about here, though. So,
yes,
the big reveal last night, Marvel's Avengers, we got to finally take a look at it. So, how has it been getting to work together? I mean, obviously, Crystal Dynamics has a long history in video games, and Marvel, I mean, needs no introduction. So, did you guys just, like, sync up naturally, or, like, how's it been?
When it comes to doing a team-up with Marvel Games and another collaborator, there's a few things we look for. We want to work with a partner who has the talent, a partner that has huge ambition. We want a collaborator who has a vision. They know what they're going to create. And most importantly, passion.
Just soak it all up, Sean. He's just talking you up right now.
I'm feeling so good right now.
Crystal has that. Their cup of running is over. It's going to be their Avengers. The ambition is great. We can talk about it a little bit later about how the kind of the new gameplay and single player and co-op, we're kind of inventing something together. So the ambition, the vision, but most importantly, they're all the teams that we're working with, their passion for Marvel. A lot of them grew up with these characters. And have now seen the rest of the world fall in love with them. And now it's our turn to show the world why we've always loved these heroes.
Yeah, agreed. And I think also we're looking for even the team. I mean, Marvel is a great collaborator. Also, they listen. They push the boundaries. They're experimenting within the structure of what you know and love of Marvel. But they give us that freedom. We bounce stuff around. I can't emphasize how great it is to collaborate with someone that's open to criticism or gives us feedback and build this thing together, because ultimately that's how you make great games.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's so neat to look at what you guys are doing with this property. Obviously, Avengers is having a huge moment right now, coming off the release of Endgame.
Kind of a good year for them.
Yeah, right, exactly. And now we're getting this brand new original story within the Avengers universe that's being led by Crystal. So can we talk a little bit about the Avengers we're going to see in the game and kind of where the story is going?
Yeah, well, the day begins at A-Day, right? The Avengers, they opened their West Coast headquarters and their custom outfitted helicarrier with this experimental technology. Of course, bad guys want that technology. A heist goes down, and they're unable to protect it, right? That disaster almost levels San Francisco, and there's a lot of casualties. Cap goes down with the ship, right? And the Avengers are now kind of, when we meet them, they're gripping with this guilt, right? They've lost their leader. They've got a lot of lives that are on their shoulders that they fail to protect, and they all deal with this guilt differently. And we, as players, get to experience that and journey with that, and question: are we heroes, or are we dangerous? Right? That's ultimately, the question. And there's a cool Marvel series that Bill put me onto.
What's that?
Called The Marvels.
Oh, Marvels by Kurt Busiek and Alex Ross.
It's amazing, and it does have a lot of that tone, like the perspective of the humans in the world of the superhero, right? So it's awesome.
And I'm glad you brought up the idea of all new story. And that you brought up Marvels, because that's essentially what we want to do with the games is when we collaborate, we want to say, what story do you want to tell? We don't want to say, well, you have to fit between these two issues, or it has to go between these films. We want to give the freedom. So we look at everything. We look at films, we look at cartoons, we look at comic books, we look at T-shirts, we look at everything, and we say, how can we blend this together to present an Avengers that is instantly recognizable? You look at them and you say, oh, that's Captain America. But then you say, wait a minute, they're unique, like this Captain America shield. We redesigned it for the game, and usually when you see Cap's shield, it's always the same. The star is within the blue, and they said, can we Can we change the shape? But I love that the inner shape is still in the blue. So it's a nod to the classic,
Exactly.
but they're taking it their own way.
Yeah, it's a twist on the classic.
And that's what's really fun is we want the players to experience something new, and even if they're a long-time fan and have been with these characters for a long time, they're not going to know where it's going next.
Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the game, shall we? We've got a piece of footage here, so let's roll the clip.
You know that old saying, never meet your heroes? Well, I did. And it was awesome. The Avengers were everything I imagined.
Hello, San Francisco!
Thor, Tony, check it out. At once.
Try to keep up. This just got a whole lot more interesting.
Let's make this quick. Secure the bridge. Those weapons can't get into the city.
You set him up. Foul, knock him down.
Thor, what's your status?
There are humans trapped. And lots of small, angry men with guns.
Is that a joke? Did Thor make a joke? Cat, they got pulsar tanks.
Tony, Thor, the cables! Cap, what's going on over there?
Start the Chimera. What's your status?
We should head back.
No, stay on task. There are still civilians on this bridge.
Reactor.
Damn it, they played us.
Some say they were set up. Others call them murderers.
Do the Avengers pose a danger to society? That was the question, Bruce. That was the question.
Well, we all lost something that day. But that's not how this story ends.
It's so exciting! Watching that trailer never gets old. And you guys must have seen it hundreds of times at this
Thousands.
point.
But, you know, every time we watch it, you know, the creators were so smart, and we talked about filling as much as we could with Easter eggs and nods and details. And even now, we're just kind of looking like, oh, I didn't notice in the background was Avengers Tower, so you always, or certain buildings. So there's a lot of storytelling that's going in there.
Yeah, no, speaking of which, I noticed at the very beginning of the trailer, this woman who's narrating is speaking in the first person. What's up with that? Who is this person?
That's a very interesting question. Who could that be?
Who could it be? Who do you think it is?
Who do I think it is?
Yeah.
Well, by my guess, based off the way that she's talking about the Avengers and
It's
knowing
God.
It's, well, it might be.
Could
I
be.
do believe God's a woman.
Yeah.
But knowing who are the females in the Avengers storyline within, you know, Marvel's history.
Don't say Batwoman.
Spit it out.
It's
Come
got to
on.
be Captain Marvel. Come on, it's Captain Marvel, right?
That's an interesting guess.
Could be a nice. Yeah, we haven't thought about that.
Oh, yes, you have. You lying liars. At least I hope you have.
an omniscient narrator. Could be someone.
Okay, so you're
But
not
very
you're not
observant.
confirming. Okay, well.
But very observant.
Yeah, and we're
Andrew
really
and Renee
excited.
called it first. It's Captain Marvel. I don't know. We'll find out hopefully eventually. But yeah, no, I love that you brought up Easter eggs. Of
Yeah.
course, we had that
Yeah.
moment with Black Widow on the bridge where she says, "Stay on task."
And she's
of course,
fighting.
we see Taskmaster here in the trailer. So what's his role in the story here?
Well, Taskmaster, you know, he's the perfect villain for the Avengers, right? He can copy their powers. He can, you know, his photo reflexes. He can basically duplicate everything. And
Yeah.
I can't go into the larger story, but he's
Right.
integral to the larger story. It's just the beginning of it, and him fighting, you know, Widow, and even the conversations they're having, you know, there's history in there that will unfold.
And if you play the demo back at the booth, you'll see the whole
Yeah.
opening fight between Widow and Taskmaster. And as Sean was talking about, so Taskmaster is a villain that first appeared in the pages of Avengers, and what his powers are. You talk about the photoreflexive
Yeah.
memory that he has.
Yeah.
He can watch someone do anything, and then he can repeat it. He doesn't have superhuman strength, or he can't see someone fly, but he can see Captain America throw his shield, then he has a shield and can throw it. So as he's watching Widow, he's learning from her. And then he's using her own teammates' moves back on her. So it's like almost fighting all the Avengers in one person.
That seems intense.
Yeah, and he was a really cool character, introduced in an issue drawn by George Perez, one of my favorite artists. Always loved him, and so I love now that we're able to put him on this big stage, and you know, more of the world will be able to discover how cool Taskmaster is.
But go see him at the demo, because you'll
Yeah,
actually see
the
that
demo.
in
I'm
action.
glad you guys
right?
brought that
Like,
up.
You'll see it. You'll see him do it.
I
and you'll
just
see
went
Widow do
and
it.
watched it again. I've seen it now. I can't tell you how many times back in the office, but I wanted to experience it with the people and go through the whole thing and put the headphones on. I sat right in the middle, and it was different. It was different from seeing it before. The level, the polish that is happening to the game. All the little things you notice. There's a lot of dialogue in the fighting that is really story driven.
Yep.
And it is you really hear a lot of the teamwork of the Avengers talking back and forth. They may be off screen, but they're in the same area and they're talking to each other, and you get the real feel of the team together in this really intense, dramatic scene that really sets the stage for the entire game. Really.
Yeah, if you pay attention to, you'll hear some of that history, right, between Taskmaster and Widow, and the Academy. Like if you play it, or if you see the demo, you'll get some of that. You can kind of see some of the core story.
Oh! And also on the bridge,
Yes.
there's a ton of Easter eggs on the trucks. There's a bunch of trucks that are you're either trying to pull off from falling or pushing
Don't
out of the
tell
way.
him everything.
What?
I wouldn't work for it.
Look for the Easter eggs. They're on the trucks.
It's like now
License
everyone's-
plates. They're all over the place.
No, but I love that because clearly it's a nod to the fans who have been with Marvel for decades, right? We were talking earlier about how you guys are celebrating your 80th
80th anniversary this
which
year.
is super exciting.
Yeah.
But there's also people like me that
Right.
haven't delved really deep into the comics, that
Right.
really got my start in Marvel with the Marvel Cinematic Universe and
Sure,
all of
sure.
these amazing Marvel movies. Am I going to be able to still feel like I can keep up with what's happening in the story?
Well,
Absolutely.
It's an original story, so you're gonna feel, and that's one of the things we set out. And Bill's been really good at making sure that we always treat this as the first person that is going to look at this game, and will they understand who these characters are and how their roles fit? Will they understand the full story? So it's not exclusive for just diehard fans.
Not at all.
It is for anyone coming into this universe to just come into the story and get drawn into these characters, and that's the goal.
And that's how we're taught at Marvel. And Stan Lee was the one who said every Marvel comic could be someone's first Marvel comic, and could be their first comic, period. So while our stories will always be complex and be very three-dimensional, and there may be mysteries, but our goal is you should never be confused.
Right.
You should know, where are you? Who are these people? What are their names? What are their powers? What are their personalities? What are their relationships? But we like to reward people. So the longer they go, whether they're reading a comic, watching something, and playing the game, the world gets bigger and bigger and bigger as you go. And in true Marvel fashion, we never talk down. I loved that when I was a kid. The comics never talked down to me. They dared me to step up. But they would give me enough context so I would understand situations and vocabulary words and metaphors and situations. And so we're the same thing. It's like, let's pretend someone's playing this game. Maybe they're just a Crystal Dynamics fan, and they just want to play their next game. Maybe they're one of the few people who have never seen one of the films, or maybe they've seen one of them, or maybe they just watch the TV shows, or maybe they just play the comics, or maybe they don't know any of that. Can they just come into the game and understand the entire story?
Yeah, I guess the fan comes from anywhere, right? They could come from anywhere.
Absolutely.
And we make sure that we cater to everyone. It's always inclusive.
But
Well, that's great to hear.
And if you are a longtime fan, you will spot things, and then they'll tell people, and then they'll get their nerd bragging rights. Let me tell you what that logo means, and let me tell you who that is, and what that means, and so it's there, but it's there for you to discover. It's not getting in the way.
Yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear that. And I'm sure, obviously, the trailer and the other footage you guys released last night is being currently picked apart by all of the fans
We hope so.
online.
We
They're
hope
going to break
so.
it down frame
Don't
by
tell
frame.
him, though. Let him pick it
Well,
apart.
he's already given a couple hints.
know.
So leave some secrets for discovery. But I do want to talk a little bit about, the game, because I think after last night, some people walked away going like, what is this game, though? Is it an action-adventure? Is it an RPG? Is it a hybrid of genres? So from your perspective, Sean, like, how would you kind of quantify like what genre this game fits into?
It's definitely epic action-adventure, right? But it's, with cinematic storytelling. That's the best way. I think it's that merger between, high, energy combat, learning skills, mastering your powers, right? Learning, outfitting your hero, and customizing, I think, is a big part of this.
Yeah, very much.
And customizing and choosing how you play this game. So you have, from that standpoint, it's a little different than, say, your average campaign game. You can go through the campaign, and you can choose immediately after the setup, hey, I want to go play with my friends. I want to do co-op. I want to play, as Thor or Iron Man or Hulk, right? And then if you are, say, a story-driven player, you can go through the campaign with a character and then experience that story linearly, straight from start to finish. If you're a completionist and you want to go, hey, I want to play Iron Man, I can go through the story again and then branch off and do these missions that are Iron Man only. I can choose which player I play, which I think is great, and then I can choose how I outfit that player, customize that player, level up that player, master his powers, and then come back to the main narrative. So you have,
And even if you play the missions, they're all tied to the main story.
Absolutely. They're all grounded in a world story and stakes, right? That the Avengers have now, or after the events of A-Day, they're now in this position.
Well, I hear customization, of course, I think of RPG options, but I also think costumes.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because the Avengers have some pretty amazing costumes over the years. Are we going to get to see some cool, different looks for all these
Definitely.
characters?
Absolutely.
The Crystal team has been so good in going through the vault, in finding comic book storyline runs, even just single covers and saying, can we do this costume? So there's a ton of costumes that are based upon classic Marvel comic moments for these characters, but also there's all new costumes that you've come up with that we've collaborated on.
Yep,
So it's a whole mix of both.
Yeah, I mean, they're costumes built for the game, built for the story, built for the story, the narrative, right, that you can actually get. And then there's, you're outfitting your particular hero the way you want, and so that they play the way you want, and they look the way you want. So there is that player customization, and then there is the narrative of where these characters are.
Man, I just think costumes and customizations and go like, is it too much? Like, how do you like put a cap on it?
It's never
right?
enough. It's Marvel. It's Marvel. You want everything. If you're going to call a game Marvel's Avengers, you want the width and the breadth and the history of these characters. You want to see them as they've been in many, many stories, and you want to dig deep, and you want to have that one look that you've always liked and have it in there, and you want to build your team. And what's so cool is at the end of the day, your Avengers may look very different from my Avengers, and that's what's so cool about it. You're living your superhero wish fantasy. You're building your Avengers.
Well, listen, I could ask you so many more questions, but unfortunately we are out of time. But so thank you so much for coming by and chatting with me
Thank you.
again.
It was so great.
Before I let you off the stage, though, you got to tell everybody out there watching when they get to finally play Marvel's Avengers.
I'll give you the month. I'll give you the date. May
15th. 2020.
See, you guys got it. I like this little bit
Rehearse
you
now.
have going on. Well, thank you so much again, guys. We, of course, will have more action for you here from the Facebook gaming stage at E3 2019.